Hey, can you guys type in the chat if you can see the video? I just want to make sure everything's working and that we're live. Do we have anyone in here yet? Just type in the chat if you're in. Goober, is it working now? All right, perfect. We should be up then. Is the audio working fine? Everything working fine so far? All right, if we're all good, let's get started. So last week was pretty interesting, especially Friday. The indexes saw pretty good gains, especially in thanks, Goober, especially in SPY and SPX. We definitely saw nice gains in that. It was interesting though because it wasn't the usual tech that led us into this move over the 200 SMA and 25 points short of 2,800. So we do have some new leaders now, some specific ETFs and sectors that we're moving, especially on Friday and last week. The first one's going to be IBB. This is the NASDAQ Biotech Index Fund. I know a lot of people are looking at this going into this week, specifically Friday. It had this nice breakout. This daily has an inverse head and shoulders that we formed. And honestly, all time frames on this are looking good for continuation. So one stock I was checking out in the biotech for NASDAQ was AMGN. This is the weekly on it. So we have this nice long-term trend line all the way back from 2016 that we've tested a few times, and we came back here just a few weeks ago. And if we come into the daily, we have this symmetrical triangle, and these are really 50-50. They can go either way, but with that support off the trend line, I'm definitely favoring this to the upside. And like I said, since IBB had such a big day on Friday with that breakout, if we turn on the moving averages and indicators, it'll give you a better look. So it pretty much powered right through the 200 SMA, and this thing has no cloud resistance, so it can easily come up to that 115 area. Also, if you guys have any questions or you want me to look at anything in specific, just type it in chat. Other than that, I'm just going to keep sort of flying through, checking out all these stocks. So AMGN was the first one, and that one is going to be with IBB. Some other notable ETFs is XRT, which is retail. This one also broke out. Let me turn off these indicators. This one had nice daily consolidation. So for the past about month or so, we've been in this consolidation range, and this break was pretty nice, right over that 45 level. On the weekly, it shows it's pretty much a nice bull flag up here. So that breakout, we saw a lot of retail names running last week. Walmart was one, had a really strong week, which also printed this inverse head and shoulders here. But that was a nice breakout. We also have earnings on Tuesday for Walmart, so that might be something to look out for retail. But nonetheless, XRT had that really strong Friday. So I'm going to be looking for continuation in retail names. One of them that interests me was Walgreens, which is ticker WBA. It had this same style of consolidation, and it has that exact same breakout that we saw in XRT. But this one got beat up really heavily in December. So I definitely think that we can see some continuation here. The target's going to be towards the cloud top up at 75. And if we back this up to the weekly, it kind of has that same style that XRT had with this weekly consolidation, and we broke out this week. So continuation there. And the last one where we saw definite strength, which is a good thing for anyone looking for continuation in the indexes, was XLF. So this is the financials, banks. Just a second. So we had this weekly bull flag and this nice consolidation up here after that strong piercing candle off this V bottom. And we actually closed inside of, so we had this huge consolidation range from March all the way into December before we broke down under it and continued down. But we actually just broke that level. So now I'm going to be watching for this to turn into support. And if we look at it on the daily, it's a lot clearer. You can see we spent a large majority of the year just trending inside of this. So now that we're broken above it, I really want to see this turn into support, and continuation in financials is going to be key for more. Is going to be key for continuation in the markets. So those are the main three: is XRT, IBB, and XLF. I'm going to be looking at those for more this week and to kind of take over in terms of leaders, because if we look at XLK, which is our tech ETF, this one, it looks a little exhausted. I'm hesitant to even post these rising wedges because pretty much all of the late 2018 and 2019, we've seen these rising wedges fail and turn bullish. So whenever we see these patterns, even though a rising wedge is quote unquote bearish, you have to take into consideration that we can still break higher. We saw that earlier this year in SPY around the 257 level. There was a rising wedge and a lot of people were interested in being short there, and we blew right over it. And we ended up now at 277, all off of a rising wedge breakout. But anyway, so this XLK it's having trouble at this 200 SMA, and we're in this tight range rising wedge. So we might see some pullback in the tech names, and we'll see money flowing into the other three ETFs that I was mentioning. So I want to look at a few tech stocks in specific. This is Amazon. It has really nice consolidation here in this 1590 to about 1680 range. And it's right off this 50 SMA has been holding as support for the duration of this consolidation. So I'm going to be watching for if we see continued pullback in tech. I definitely will be looking at this 1590 level for a break. Yeah, to answer your question, Mecca, it just honestly, it depends on preference. I think and especially in the options chain itself, trading the ETFs, it's a completely different ballgame than trading something like Amazon. Like if you look at Amazon, even trading same day expiry, you're going to be looking at $2,000 in premium, most likely we're going to have higher IV in the Amazon chain than we're going to have in something like QQQ. So it all comes down to preference. And if you want, you're going to have more risk exposure being into the big names like Apple. I guess not really Apple, but things like Amazon, Netflix, Google. Those big ticket names are going to be a lot more money. And if you're looking to trade those, I would honestly recommend spreads. But the ETFs you can really trade naked, and it's not going to be a huge deal. You don't have crazy exposure. But anyway, I'll be watching. If we hold support down here again, and we see tech kind of have an uptick, I'm definitely going to think Amazon's going to be a long, and we're going to break to the upside out of this consolidation. And I'll be looking for continuation in that. Even the weekly sort of looks like a bull flag, but it's definitely not going to be confirmed until we see a breakout above 1680 and continuing hold of 1590. Some other tech names I was interested in. There are still some bullish. Apple, for example. I really like this one. I'm going to be looking at it tomorrow, actually, for a possible position. Hold it for a few days, but this hourly has a nice symmetrical triangle. We're holding over this 169 support. You can see it used to be resistance, and we've turned that into support. So I definitely want to see this one. If we can break out over about 171 tomorrow, I'm going to be looking to go long on this one, and my target will probably be the high of the pennant. But yeah, these symmetrical triangles, especially when it's coming off a gap up like this, these tend to be more favored to the upside. So like I said, that 171 level, that's going to be where I'm looking at for a breakout and trade this one long. I want to go back to a few bank stocks because I do think that we're going to see continuation there. So this is back, Bank of America. Their weekly chart is really what's interesting me. We had this big green candle on earnings week. I kind of pulled back a little bit, and we saw a strong bounce back up. And on the daily, we actually put in a double bottom here, which it avoided the gap. So we have this huge gap right here. And we bounced in double bottom. So that's definitely a good sign. It just pretty much means that buyers were willing to defend this gap, and they didn't want to go too deep into it. So I'm looking if we can see strength in banks, and we see this weekly play out. When we break out over this 29.75 30 level, we're going to see some nice continuation. But I think anytime we're near support down here, we're going to need to pick that up for calls. And yeah, that was also, we had that nice move on Friday over the 200 SMA. So continuation seems likely here. Another one is, back to JPM. So JPM is a lot like XLF. It had this year-long consolidation, just range-bound moves in here. And we broke back above that range here. It could not hold as support, so we broke back down. But now that we're piercing back through it, this 103.50 level, we're going to see nice. If we can hold up here, we'll see continuation. But really, after breaking this resistance at that 105 area, there's plenty of room above for us to go. Not a whole lot of resistance. For a little bit higher, I think we can see 108. 108 for this week, depending on the strength in the banks. Let me see. There's a couple of semi charts too for the semiconductors. I know a lot of people are looking at AMD long. This has been a monster stock through all of 2018. Just been so strong. And we double bottom here. Now we gapped up off these earnings, and we have this little descending resistance here, and we broke above that on Friday. And on the weekly, we have So this is called a double inside week. And basically that means that neither candle was able to break the high or the low of this is called the mother candle. And this basically just means consolidation. And when you see these inside weeks, especially a double inside week, that is usually a good sign that we're going to have continuation in the direction of the mother's body. So I really like AMD long, especially I think a pickup in this area with a stop around that 23, 2250-ish level. Because I really think that we're going to break over 25, and that will give us a lot of room, especially if you look at this weekly, a break over 25, and we can continue pretty higher. The other is NVIDIA, which also had earnings, I think it was Friday. Thursday, sorry. But it is trying to bottom out down here. We can see these higher lows that we made on the daily. And we also have this sort of like a symmetrical triangle down here. But we broke out of this downtrend, and we still have this really big gap above that starts around that 170 level. And the weekly is in favor of trying to bottom here because, like I said, we printed those higher lows. This week we tried to break out over this pivot high, but we weren't quite able to. It didn't really hold much of its gains off that gap up. But nonetheless, I want to see continuation towards this gap. I know C4 was looking at this one for a longer term hold, especially just coming off that beat up. We went from 292 a share to lows of in the 124s. So it's looking like it's trying to bottom, and I'm going to be watching for some continuation into that gap. Hopefully, if semis have a good week this week, we can see that along with AMD running as well. Another one I was interested in was Tesla. This one would be more of a day trade. Tesla isn't something I would swing just solely due to the volatility, and the chain itself is super high IV, so it's really easy to get hurt on that position. But another symmetrical triangle here on the 4-hour, it's been consolidating through here. And when you look at, this is one that I've mentioned to a few people. If you back Tesla up and you look at, this is the monthly. I know that we're in the middle of a monthly candle, but I just want to show a bigger picture of Tesla because there's a lot of opinions on the fundamentals, the long-term, stuff like that. But this really looks like a 4-leg parabola move where we had this consolidation, first leg, second leg, and now this third leg is what I'm going to be looking for through the rest of the year and probably more like 1 to 2 years from now. But either way, I'm looking to trade this symmetrical triangle. It has a nice consolidation in here. And we still have this huge gap, and Tesla has a tendency to run and squeeze out shorts. So going to look for a position here. Probably buy point would be over once we can break out over this downtrend line. And one of the last things I wanted to look at was VXXB. So we are coming into, we had this falling wedge that we tried to break out of on Thursday. We failed to do so and gap down further on Friday. But we have this strong support here at 32. So in terms of the continued move in the ETFs and the indexes, I want to, if we hold this support and end up breaking out of this falling wedge, that could be a big move. But it's all up to, yeah, I'll get to Microsoft. But we will see. If we flip this upside down and check out the inverted, though, which is always good to do to remove that bias. Yeah, I'll look at Microsoft. But to me, on the inverted view, it looks like it wants to move higher, which on the inverse would be lower. So it's just something to keep on watch. See if we bounce. See if we can break this support. Be a really good sign for the bulls. But even just looking at SPX, it still looks like we're going to go towards that 28.15 level, which is where we double topped up here. Yeah, around that 28.15 level. So that would be, for anyone looking to short, that's an important area to watch. The 2800 psych level will also be important. But for now, we really can't fight this move. You have to just play this trend. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised this week if we see some consolidation, especially Goober mentioned we have the FOMC minutes on Wednesday at 2:30. So especially with the shortened week, some consolidation wouldn't surprise me, and it would probably be preferred so that we don't just keep going up in a straight line. I mean, we're up nearly 300 and we're up over 400 points from the Christmas lows. So consolidation is never a bad thing. And you can see these previous consolidation ranges here, here, and here. So if we can keep doing that, keep consolidating and having these dips get bought out, that'd be really good. I'll check out Microsoft now. This one was sort of a leader in tech compared to some of the other names on Friday, especially things like Amazon being down a couple percent. Microsoft was up nicely. It broke out of this downtrend here. And I know a lot of people were looking at Microsoft last week, the 110 calls. I never ended up picking them up, but nonetheless, it definitely has room. And with it having strength and right now being a leader in tech, can definitely see this one move to 110. And it's all going to depend though on XLK and if we can see a breakout of this rising wedge and over the 200 SMA. I would really be weary with tech, and I would try and play the stronger names, the things like financials and retail and biotech. But yeah, Microsoft still definitely looks good. I think this one can go higher. Yeah, it's a strong Friday on that one for comparative to the rest of tech. But that is really all that I had on watch for this week. So to kind of go back over them, in terms of retail, I was looking at WBA for Walgreens. I was looking at AMGN for biotech and IBB. This symmetrical triangle coming off the long-term trend line. For semis, I want to see that AMD double inside weekly. I want to see that one broken and a move over 25 on that. And Amazon, want to see if we can hold support down here or if we're just going to break right through it and lose this 50 SMA support. And and then in financials, I really like back for a long Bank of America with that push over the 200 SMA and this weekly sort of flag look. So I want to see continuation there. But that's really all I have. If there are any more tickers or questions that you guys had, just let me know right now and I will go over them. But yeah, that's really it. This has been an epic move from that V bottom, and SPX has burnt a lot of people. I would love to see this continue. Oops. Oh, let's look at gold too. It's a little bit late now on gold, but GDX, we broke out of this awesome. Yeah, I'll check out PayPal and Goose just a second. But gold broke out of this awesome bull flag. I know people like Ash was trading this, and a lot of people had eyes on this move, and it's been really solid. I definitely think we're going to test this flag high, and the weekly supports that idea. If you check out this weekly, it almost looks like we're getting into a cup and handle type move here. So yeah, anyone that's in gold, definitely watch this flag pull high for a break over that for some continuation into, let's see. yeah, some continuation up into the 23 area. That's where we're going to find our next resistance. Let me check out PayPal. PayPal was a really good move off of this. Turn off these. Off of this ascending triangle. I mentioned this one to Goober because we had these. This is really a picture perfect weekly setup where we have these higher lows where we continue holding this trend line support. And so this candle essentially confirmed this breakout because we had a failed breakout back here on this ascending triangle. And even up here, this dip got bought that we had, I believe, off of earnings. Yeah, that dip got bought up right away. I do think it's a little bit late right now if you're looking long at least. And I wouldn't be interested in a short because the larger time frames are still pointing higher. So yeah, I don't think there's any great position for PayPal right now, at least technicals wise. Just because the weekly is supporting a move higher and it's too late on the daily, unless we can somehow flag or consolidate and break out again. But until then, I would probably not trade that name. Let me check out. Oh yeah, Goose had that news. Yeah, that was an ugly breakdown in Goose, especially because we were trading. Oops, thought I had trend line. We were trading pretty tight up here, and we just broke right through it. Again, this is a hard one. You definitely don't want to chase these moves, but if we even check out like the weekly, yeah, it just this looks like we're going to see more move down. Even sort of a head and shoulders pattern kind of forming here on the weekly, with like a diagonal neckline. But I don't know if I'd be willing to chase this move. I definitely think we can go lower, and I think I can't recall the news off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty bad, and they were saying that their sales are going to be decreasing dramatically, but I could be mistaken. But technical wise, probably are going to see some continuation to the downside with this head and shoulders and just that heavy selling pressure on Thursday and Friday. Are there any other names that you guys wanted me to look at? Oh, and I keep forgetting I had more. Facebook. Ash mentioned this one. I was looking at this as well. This 1 hour falling wedge here coming off that earnings gap up. These are always good plays. When we have these gap ups off earnings, when we see a pullback like this, whether it's a flag, falling wedge, sideways consolidation, whatever it is, these are really good plays for the long side. And we're looking for, if we can break this downtrend, we should see continuation and potentially even, because on the daily, this is a pretty tight ranged move to the downside. So the risk is really small down here if you pick up calls, because your risk is really only going to be this low, that pivot low, or even if you can play it tighter and use this support at 161.50 as your stop. So those types of plays are really solid. Just having that tight risk, it's not a super big. You're not risking a whole bunch for that, especially if you can pick it up near support. So if we can see some volume in this name and a breakout over that downtrend, that'd be really solid. And I think that is officially it. That is what I had. Yeah. Anything else from you guys that you want me to look at? Oh, also, IWM, Russell small cap ETF. For this fib line from 2015 lows up until all-time highs, we just kissed this 78% on Friday, and we essentially closed right on it. Close was 156.22, and we were 10 cents off of that. So, oh, and this one also hasn't even broken 200 SMA. So we still have some resistance up here in the small caps. This has been a leader both to the downside and this upside move. I do believe it has had the biggest gain. Correct me if I'm wrong, out of the other ETFs, but This has been the leader. Still is, it's 200 SMA. It's facing up here. So that is definitely going to be an area of interest to watch. Because if we look at things like SPX, we're over. Dow is way over. NASDAQ and QQQ, those are still facing that 200 SMA, but nonetheless, the other indexes are over, and IWM still has to break out over it. Oh yeah, interesting. Also, like I said, I was reluctant to post anything with rising wedges just because the amount of times that they failed. But this QQQ looks like one of those times where we're going to see a breakout over, where the rising wedge is going to turn bullish and break out of this flat top 173.25. Obviously, we'll have to let price be our guide and see if we actually break out over. But if we can get over this, that's going to be really good for the NASDAQ and tech stocks, the stuff we have with the QQQ. So I'll be watching that 173.25 level, even for a test of it tomorrow. I know futures are pretty flat right now, but we'll see if we can get some movement tomorrow. KO. Oh, I didn't even see this one off the beatdowns from earnings. Yeah, I wouldn't chase this move to the downside, and I probably wouldn't long it either. Yeah, so no real trade for me on KO. I would see if we can consolidate a little bit, see if we can find a pattern. Maybe we bounce and bear flag for more downside. But yeah, no real opinion here. Anything else you guys want me to take a look at? Also, how is the quality of this? I did a test earlier and it didn't look very good, but is it showing up good on your guys' end? Awesome. That's perfect. All right, guys. I think that is going to be it. I will definitely be doing more of these. Good. I was worried. I tested it earlier and it looked awful from my end. So I'm glad that it turned out well. But either way, I'm going to be doing more of these in the future. I would like to try and do them once a week. Usually during the weekends, probably either a Saturday afternoon or Sunday nights, just sort of depending on when I have the free time. But yeah, definitely looking forward to more of these. And I'm going to try and get on voice chat tomorrow. So I will talk to all of you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.